Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. Really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I really appreciate all the support. I'm digging into this Bahamas mystery in this episode. Lynette Hooker questions about whether she actually fell off of a dinghy in the Bahamas or whether her husband is somehow involved in all of this and may have pushed her. The couple's from Michigan. They were living on a sailboat in the Bahamas. We've got new information from the couple's friends, text messages that were exchanged before Lynette went missing. I'm going to get into all the latest in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. What happened to Lynette Hooker? This story is so bizarre. She disappeared after her husband said that she fell off their small dinghy in the Bahamas. There was bad weather apparently. But is that the real story of what happened to the mother from Michigan, or is there something more that we don't know about? Brian Booker, the husband, when I'm recording this, which is Monday afternoon, remains in custody. He was being questioned after his wife went missing off their boat again in the Bahamas. Brian Hooker's attorney says that he was questioned for hours in relation to whether or not he caused harm, which resulted in Lynette's death. Lynette Hooker's body has not been found at this point. Brian says his wife fell overboard last Saturday off a small dinghy. He said that he had to paddle for hours to get to shore. And he said that she basically, and was the quote, just bounced off the dinghy amid a wind gust of around 20 miles per hour. Now, Brian said that they were not wearing life jackets, and it happened right as the sun was going down, that the sun, I think the way he put it, actually set like 20 minutes after she fell off the dinghy. And the way the law works in the Bahamas is his detention can be extended until around 7:30 p.m. Monday night. So today is Monday when I'm recording this, 7:30 tonight. And then charges must be filed in relation to the death, or they have to release him. Although they already did one extension, but that's the way it works with Bahamian law. In a bizarre turn of events, Brian actually claims that he fell overboard, and this part is so crazy to me. So he fell overboard after he was arrested. The police came out to his boat, took him away for questioning on the police boat, and he actually fell overboard off the police boat and injured his knee. So that was kind of another strange development in this whole thing. The U.S. Coast Guard also opened a criminal investigation into the case, and authorities are coordinating a search right now. So you've got the criminal investigation that's ongoing with Brian Hooker, with his wife missing, and then you've also got a search that is happening right now, ongoing for Lynette. Brian has an attorney who has said that his primary concern and source of intense frustration is his inability to continue the search for his wife of 25 years because he's been in police custody, so he can't search. The attorney said the trauma of her disappearance, coupled with his current detention as a suspect, has left him in an extremely fragile state, is how they described it. According to CBS News, Brian Hooker sent images of maps to his friends and other boaters, saying that they showed where his wife went missing in the Bahamas. CBS reports he also allegedly sent them to law enforcement and created these maps to try to help with the search for Lynette. The images, they basically look like screenshots from this app. It's called Navionics. It's a GPS app that the boaters use to navigate in that area. According to the screenshots, Hooker traveled 4 miles west in his dinghy from the spot where Lynette went overboard. It was around 7:30 p.m. Hooker says that he washed up on shore around 4 a.m. the next morning in the Marsh Harbor boatyard. So he was apparently also lost in the night with these weather conditions. CBS News also obtained text messages Brian Hooker sent a friend. They asked if he saw the news, and he wrote, "Yes, brother, I'm afraid so. Off the dinghy in some choppy seas on the way back to the sailboat. The wind blew me away from her, and she swam towards the sailboat, and we lost sight of each other pretty quickly. As it was just about sundown, I drifted and tried to paddle with one oar for the next 7 hours until I washed up behind the shore of the next island over, and I was able to get some help finally, we are all still searching. A lot is going on right now, but I thank you for checking on us. Being on the news is a huge burden, and I just had my first ever news organization call me a few minutes ago. Our family is in hell right now. Search and Rescue just called, said they had searchers, so a bunch of areas today, and no joy. Sorry, the grammar was a little weird in those text messages, but those are the messages that he allegedly sent to a friend, according to CBS News. Lynette's daughter has expressed doubt about whether this is really an accident, and she is suspicious of her stepfather. Listen to what she said.
It's a lot to process. I still can't believe this is my life right now. I never thought that this would even be a thing to talk about. I have a hard time believing that she just fell off. Even if she did, I don't understand why he didn't drop anchor and look for her, or even swim to go get her because he was a Marine. I hope she's just on an island somewhere partying it up, just away from life for a second. But the longer it's been, the more doubt I have. I'm concerned that his anger got the best of him in an argument, and he's done something that he can't undo. Like, I get waves of sadness hit me, and I just start crying. Like, I'll go through our texts, and I'll start bawling. I don't know, he's always made, like, the rules of the house and came up with all my groundings. But he's always there when I needed help, but I know my mom and him have had issues, and they've broken up in the past, so their relationship was a little rocky, but I would always be nice to him and everything just for my mom.
Lynette's daughter also shared a voicemail that she says Brian left her after her mom went missing. Listen to this.
Hello, honey. I just got a call from Hopetown Search and Rescue, and they have found a flotation device that I threw to Mom when she fell overboard, and so they haven't found her yet, but they can now focus all of their efforts in a smaller area, and they're still out there searching today. So I just wanted to update you and let you know. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
In terms of what was going on in their relationship, a friend of Lynette's shared text messages with the New York Post from Lynette, where she says that they were in trouble in their relationship, that things weren't going well since they started sailing together. Lynette wrote, "I guess it was too much closeness. We decided to call it quits. I'm not going back. Good luck, guys. Heartbroken considering quit my awesome career, sold my house, and gave away everything I owned to cruise. We were married 21 years. Our marriage lasted 6 weeks cruising." So basically, she's saying that once they got on this boat together, they had a hard time getting along, according to those messages. There's an old police report from Kentwood, Michigan. This is interesting. It's involving domestic abuse. It's from February of 2015, so keep in mind this is like 11 years ago. So the police report reads, summary, Brian Hooker stated he was assaulted by his wife, Lynette Hooker. He said he was struck in the face multiple times. He had injuries and refused medical. Dispatched to an intoxicated female locked in an upstairs bedroom. Female stated she was assaulted by someone in the home. Officer Vanderbent and I arrived on scene and made contact with Brian Hooker on the main floor of the home. He was intoxicated and had blood coming from his nose. Contact with victim Brian Hooker, so they called Brian the victim. He stated he got struck in the face several times by his wife. He stated she was drunk and thought, and again, the grammar is a little weird, and were locked in a room upstairs fooling around. He stated Lynette attempted to open the door. Brian Hooker stated he went upstairs to calm her down, and Lynette Hooker struck him in the face 4 to 5 times. He stated he had never been hit like that in a long time. He started to cry and became emotional. She stated she heard Lynette, this is a witness now, who stated she heard Lynette upstairs causing a commotion. She stated Brian went upstairs and returned several minutes later. He was bleeding from the nose. Contact with suspect Lynette Hooker. She was upstairs talking with dispatch. She was highly intoxicated. I brought her downstairs and asked her what occurred. She stated she was struck in the forehead by her husband, Brian. She stated her kids had locked themselves in a room upstairs. She was attempting to get in when she was assaulted by Brian. She stated he choked her and punched her. Brian Hooker had a bloody nose that was red and swollen. He refused medical. Lynette Hooker had no visible injuries. I did not observe any marks or scratches on her. She refused medical. And Lynette actually ended up spending the night in jail. So again, that was from 2015. So it seems like they had obviously had issues in the past, all leading up to this situation now where Lynette Hooker is missing and Brian Hooker is being questioned by the police. I'm joined now by Maureen O'Connell, retired FBI agent. Maureen, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you as always, Brian. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Had a sort of a somewhat relaxing weekend and just back to the grind. How are you?
Good. Well, you don't get much relaxation, so I'm very glad to hear it.
Yeah, it was nice. I chilled a little bit. I like your background, by the way. It's different than normal.
Yep. I'm in an undisclosed location right now.
Okay.
That's why.
I won't ask any
So
questions.
I'm not in my office in LA.
This story though out of the Bahamas is troubling. And a lot of people are talking about it. And they're, the husband, Brian Hooker, is being questioned by the police. I guess I want to start with, and I was thinking about this today. I mean, if they're on this dinghy together and he says she fell off, the weather was bad, um, her family seems to think something suspicious may happen. Perhaps he pushed her off. How is there any way to prove it one way or the other?
It's going to be really hard. Now,
Hey guys, this message is sponsored by Raycon. I actually have their essential open earbuds and I love them. They just go around the top of your ear and then they sit right on the outside. They sound amazing, music sounds amazing with them, but what I really love about them is that when you're wearing them, you can still hear what's going on. So like if I'm on a jog, there's a car that comes up behind me or someone shouting my name or whatever, you can hear it, unlike with other headphones. The charge is also really good. They come in this cool little charging case. I charge mine maybe once a week. My mom also has them and loves them. She listens to podcasts. She walks every morning around her neighborhood, and she likes them because she can hear if there's like a car coming up behind her. They would make a great Mother's Day gift. So to celebrate the mom in your life, go to buyraycon.com/BrianEntonOpen to get 15% off the Essential Open earbuds. I think they would make an awesome gift. You may also just love them. I appreciate Raycon for sponsoring this video.
if they find her body and she has a huge impression in her forehead and her forehead is cracked and the impression matches an oar from that dinghy, okay, now you've got something because he apparently rowed all the way to that other island with one oar. What happened to that other oar? I'm sure the police are looking into that. But if they don't find her, or if they find her and she doesn't appear to have any injuries to her other than those that would be sustained naturally within a situation like this, they're going to have a hard time. But he did spend several hours talking to police, according to the report I read. So if he spent several hours talking to them, we don't know what he said. So we're flying blind here. But if he did cooperate that much, maybe it is what it was. Maybe they just went to have a few cocktails, which seems to be a lot of what they do. And they wanted to get back to their boat before it got too dark out. But why did they moor 2 miles away from the place? I know they've got a dinghy and they probably didn't want to pay to moor their boat closer by, but that's a long way to go in that tiny little dinghy. 2 miles.
It's tiny too. I don't know. You see the
Especially
picture
after
of
a
it?
couple cocktails.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
very small dinghy. I don't know that I've ever even seen a dinghy that small. And to be, they obviously sail around and know the water. I mean, to be in that little dinghy with they said 20-mile-per-hour winds, it was about to get dark. That seems a little suspicious.
it seems suspicious, but who knows? Maybe they're, if they're having money troubles and that's the only place they could really go to park. We don't know what their real situation is. We'll learn more about that as time goes by, I guess. But they do have, according to the daughter and according to police reports, they've got a couple of situations in their past that would lead a reasonable person to believe that these guys like to go out and get hammered a lot, and who knows what can happen. I know that rip currents are real. I know that they can. I read part of his statement in that text message to his friend said that he just started traveling so quickly in that direction toward that island where he ended up many hours later. I know that's legitimate. I've been in situations. I'm actually a water safety instructor from way back, and it's been decades. But I remember learning about rip currents and everything, and I had a personal experience where a friend of mine was going. I mean, I just watched this person in one position in front of me in the ocean. They were out in the ocean, and this rip current took them so fast. I was running as fast as I could down the beach all the way to the end of the bay. And I almost died trying to save that person, but we both got out alive. And it was nuts. And that was back when I was in good swimming shape. I don't know what kind of swimming shape these people are in. We don't know that. People assume that everyone that owns a boat and has a yacht or has a big boat, that they're all good swimmers. They're not. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah, you mentioned the rip currents. That was a big thing with me growing up too. And you always learn to swim, not swim to shore, to swim sideways and then just
Right,
wait for it to bring you back. And, where I live in Miami, I mean, the Bahamas is right here. It's like, you can take a boat there really easily or a really quick
right.
flight. And they're pretty good at finding people. Like, I hate to use the word bodies, but, when someone goes missing over there or drown, I mean, they've got all the technology there. It's like an aquatic society there. So that I have
Yep.
a feeling they will find her eventually. And like you said, I guess that will, if she's still in decent shape, we'll be able to see, um, what kind of condition she's in and if there's any evidence there. And I hate to say that she's dead. I mean, maybe she's at some island somewhere, although most of the islands there are people live on them. So there's not just that many abandoned islands that she would just be chilling on at this point. But you never know. They searched the boat. They searched his boat. Um, what do you think they were looking for? What kind of things, if you were searching a boat like that and you knew that she was missing, how would that go down?
You're going to search everything. You're going to look at everything. You're going to, well, the first question I would have is what happened to that other oar? Because these are people that have been combative with one another for years, and she was actually charged with domestic violence against him at one time in the past, when both of her children, according to this police report, both of her children were locked in their rooms. Why are children locking themselves in their rooms unless they feel unsafe? And the person you should always feel safe with is your mom. My mom could always get into my room. There was never any reason why I wouldn't let my mother in my room. And I couldn't imagine locking my mom out of my room when I was in her house. So there's a lot to be learned. I'm not saying at all that she deserved what she got, but if they went in to have a couple cocktails and they're going to find out about that, I'm sure they already have all that information. It's hard to navigate riptides and everything when you're inebriated, because one of the main things, like you said, is swimming across. The other one is keeping your hips up on the surface. You have to keep your hips up on the surface so that undercurrent doesn't take you. And if she wasn't doing that, because she was a little inebriated, it very well could have just taken her in a totally different direction. So, you know, it's not looking good for her right now. And they're going to have to let him go. To answer your initial question, there's a very good chance they're going to let him go and he may never get charged, or he may get charged 5 years later when this guy says something in a bar to one of his buddies that implicates him.
Yeah, and the rules are obviously different there. It's not the United States, so they have different rules where I don't even think in the US they could have kept him this long. It's been the whole
No,
weekend.
it's
Um,
based on British law, isn't it? The
yeah,
Bahamas is based on
exactly.
British law. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they're just trying to wear him down? Is that the point of keeping someone that long?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're trying to figure out it's not a bad policy to try to figure out what happened before you let someone out on the street again. God forbid we should care more about our law-abiding citizens than the people that are perpetrating crime against them. Not saying that he did anything at this point, but the fact that he was, by himself and had to row for many, many, many hours, I guess it's as plausible as anything else in a scenario like this. If he would have gone in after her, they probably both could have drowned.
Yeah. When I think the other bizarre part of this is so when the Bahamian police went out to his sailboat to pick him up and search the boat, and then they loaded him onto their boat to take him in for questioning, he fell off of that boat also. Did you hear about this? And he
Yeah.
apparently had a life jacket on, but the weather wasn't great then either, and he ended up ingesting some water and needing medical treatment. And his lawyer has now been talking about that too, but how strange is that he also falls off the police boat?
Was he handcuffed?
Yeah, so he was handcuffed.
Well, then that makes sense because so often, more often than not, we're going to use our arms to help us balance when we're disembarking or embarking or boarding any type of vessel. And it's wet. The surfaces are all wet. If you're not wearing the right shoes, he may have been barefoot at this point by the time they found him on that island. I don't know. But it doesn't surprise me. He went through a traumatic event, no matter what the circumstances. He went through a very traumatic night. It doesn't sound like he slept much, so there were a lot of things going on. It doesn't surprise me at all that he fell off that boat. And handcuffed, that's why he took in water, even with a vest on. You as a lifeguard and a water safety instructor, things like that, you're taught how to float. But as a Marine, he was probably taught similar things. But with your hands tied behind your back or handcuffed, it's very difficult.
Some of her friends have now been sharing text messages saying that things had, and you mentioned the one police report that was from 2015. So that was a while ago when there was this
Right.
domestic violence report where she ended up in jail and he was injured. So it was more than 10 years ago, but there were recent text messages also that she had sent to friends saying that she wasn't happy, that things were ending, that the boat was not good for the relationship, which I can imagine if from 2015, 10 years ago, they were fighting, being together on this little sailboat probably doesn't help.
No, it's like close quarters. I was just telling my sister yesterday that at the beginning of COVID, they were saying, oh, with everyone being locked down and being so close to one another, we're expecting that there's probably going to be a lot of babies born. And then my husband and I glance at each other because we're both in law enforcement and we're both very salty. And I said, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" And he goes, "A sharp increase in domestic violence." And we both just laughed pretty hard and that's exactly what it turned out to be. Being in close quarters like that, where you can't go to your own corner, so to speak, you have no place to sit and read a book when someone wants to watch a football game really loud or on and on and on and on. It's a lot, and it's a lot for people. And if you add alcohol into that mix, it can get dicey pretty quickly. And it's I don't know. It always sounds very dreamy to spend years going around on sailboats, but it to me it just does not sound dreamy. Does it sound that way to you?
Well, look, it's a big thing. Again, I live in Florida. I grew up in Florida. It's kind of a big thing here. I mean, people will sell their house, retired people buy a sailboat, buy a catamaran, that's big, and sail to the Bahamas, sail to all those islands. Um, and for some people that, they save up their whole life. It's like their retirement plan. Uh, I I like sailing, but to me, the idea of spending that much, it's just not my thing. I mean, I think to live
Yeah.
on the boat like that forever, and like you mentioned, I mean, I'd go crazy with someone else on a boat for that long. I mean, it's just too close of quarters. But a lot of people do it. A lot of people love it. It's interesting with them, with the hookers. You have her daughter saying that there's something suspicious. It doesn't sound like she trusts the stepdad at all. And she's kind
Right.
of been the one sounding the alarm. His mother also spoke with our producer Allison and said that they loved each other. Was sort of defending him, saying that So how much do you think the family's stories will come into play here with law enforcement?
It all boils down to one thing. Can they prove anything? And if they can't prove it, he's getting out. Because as crazy as this whole story sounds, these things happen, you know. Uh it's going to be hard to prove, like unless they find something very definitive when they find her. Or let's say they find that second oar, maybe the oar floats up on shore and they find a piece of her scalp with a bunch of her hair in it. That's going to, you know, turn things around a little bit. But I remember that text that you mentioned just a few minutes ago where she was texting with her friend and she said 21 years of marriage was great and now 6 weeks on this boat and our marriage is over. So that wasn't sent that long ago and they were talking about ending this marriage. So it that does indicate that there were troubled waters and not just, literally.
Right. So if you're investigating this, what are the chances that there's troubled waters, that it seems to be reaching a boiling point, and she just happens to fall off a little dinghy right before sunset in bad weather?
Well, let's talk to everyone, all these places that they frequent, has she ever fallen off a dinghy before? Is she a person that has fallen a number of times? Because in that police report I read from 2015, she was severely inebriated and had a difficult time talking. If that's the case, if the receipts from their sunset dinner or whatever, cocktail hour, wherever they went, if the receipts from there show she's drinking, let's say Cosmopolitans or something that's traditionally a woman's drink, and he's drinking beer, and there's 8 beers on there or something, but there's 8 Cosmos also. It's going to be more believable. So it's just all the fact gathering. I wouldn't form an opinion at all initially. You just go wherever the evidence is going to lead you. And if the evidence is leading you down a path where, oh yeah, she fell off this pier one time, she fell off this thing another time, she did that, then you see how that would just lessen it just tips the scales a little bit in one way or the other. So you just got to go where it's going to take you.
I just wonder if there's something they know, though, to hold someone in custody like that since Friday. It's now, I'm sure there's been a lot of people there that have fallen overboard and their husbands or family members aren't suddenly locked up like that. Like maybe there's
Right.
something we don't know.
And they did one extension, isn't that correct?
They
Or
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
so with one extension, you're going to have some sort of probable cause to get that extension. So they have to have something. Maybe it's something he said during that long quote unquote interview they did with him when they first arrested him, or some spontaneous utterance when they first picked him up, or something he said to one of his friends during that initial look-see when they're talking to all of his friends, colleagues, and the people that they hang out with.
The fact that he was messaging other friends too that have now shared those messages, he was sending these maps that he made trying to show them where he thought she may have gone overboard and where people should be searching. He sent a couple of different friends messages about how upset he was. Does that mean anything to you as an investigator? I mean, and the fact that he then went and talked to the police. I'm just wondering, like, if you actually did it, would you have been on purpose? Would you be clamping down, or do you think at the same time, I mean, he's a former Marine, maybe he just thinks he knows it all and he's going to be able to cover it up?
Well, I think all the things that you mentioned lean slightly toward he's concerned. I mean, if you murdered someone, are you really going to send people to the location where you were? And it's going to be fairly easy for the United States Coast Guard, which is open an investigation. They're going to be able to find out a lot of different things about this. They'll be able to. So if he's sending a map to some location and it's way off from where the Coast Guard thinks he is, that's going to be a problem. But again, we don't have that information. If the information jives with what he says, that's good. I like the fact that he's trying to look for her. It always is concerning to us, as you've said with other people, and even with the Nancy Guthrie case, there didn't seem to be a great deal of interest for a lot of people to go and try to find her, and so many people were worried about that until you get out there and you look at the topography and you understand how treacherous that desert landscape can be. So there I like that he's asking other people to look for her. I like that he's sending maps and that he's sending messages saying, "Please help me find her. I'm so distraught." There was one line. I didn't like the placement of some of his comments, and let me explain what I mean by that. He said a couple of things along the lines of what we just said, but then he says, um, and it was my first time that the press had reached out to me for an interview, which whatever. And then after that, he says something that's a plea for finding her or something. And I just thought that that should have been way before the query from the press. I just
I
found
thought
the
that was
placement
kind
of
of
that a little.
interesting too, the way that he put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he also changed the subject later. I don't think in what I sent you, I don't think I included it, but he later started asking the person, "Oh, did you end up getting your captain's license or something like that?" Kind of going to normal chit chat, which I thought was kind of strange too. Um,
You
although,
think he wouldn't have the bandwidth for that after what
right,
he'd been through?
right. I don't know what the charges are in the Bahamas, but in the U.S., if is there any other kind of charge he could face besides murder? I mean, if it was his boat, was he somehow responsible for making sure she had a life jacket? Or I guess it would just be an accident.
A lot of people I know, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing in Florida, they don't even wear life jackets when they're just taking their dinghy to shore to grab dinner or something. I usually don't see people at all with life jackets on. So if the police there don't enforce that law, that's a good thing for the defense attorney to say, you guys never even enforce this law. What are you talking about?
Mm.
I don't know what the laws are in the Bahamas, so I can't really speculate other than that.
Yeah, same. I just, I was wondering about that if there was any other charge he could face. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to hold him and also what he does when they let him go. I mean, his lawyer has said that he wants to get out so that he can go search for her. So I
Right.
wonder what he's going to do. Is he just going to start, get right on the water if they let him go?
But the one thing for me that seems incongruent with regard to what's being reported is like, is he trying to say that the winds were super strong and in the opposite direction of the current?
I don't
Because
know.
one would imagine that if the current was going in one direction and it was strong, I mean, the winds could have taken him in that same direction. If they find that out, that could be compelling, wouldn't you
Right.
say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like again, he drew these whole maps, and he ended up getting taken away all night long, he claims. He wasn't able to get to shore till the next morning, I think 4:30 a.m. So, he claims that he was also swept up in the whole thing. So yeah, it'll
Well,
be interesting.
they're going to look at those currents because if the currents and the water conditions and the wind conditions don't agree with what he said and how he ended up over there, that could be a case where he's creating distance between himself and whatever happened.
Mm,
And then
I hadn't thought of that.
that could be problematic also. But right now, I mean, the goal should be to find her, but it's all this fact finding stuff and putting it all, plotting it all properly so you can see how that things happened exactly when they happened with regard to wind and currents and rip tides, whatever. It's they're putting that together, and that has to be put together before you make a decision. Could that be the probable cause that they were talking about before they let him go? Could they have said, "Hey, we just need more time to plot all this stuff out and to figure out exactly what happened and see if it goes along with his statement." Also, bringing in the Coast Guard, they probably say, "Hey, we need time because we have to brief them up on everything because they're starting their investigation. Can we have a little more time?" And you know, we'll see.
Do you think he could have still, if he was drinking heavily, and we don't know that he was, but if he was, and they determined that when they found him the next morning, that could be criminal, right? If he was the one driving the dinghy.
Yes, if since he landed on the island, he did not have access to alcohol and he still had a high blood alcohol, yes, he could possibly get charged with driving while under the influence. It's no different. Everybody thinks that you can just drive a boat or a scooter. You can get on a scooter while you're hammered, and no, you can't. Um, you're not even supposed to drive a bicycle when you're drunk, believe it or not. But a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm not driving my car. I'm fine." So if that happened, yes, there is a chance that he could get charged with that. But if where he landed, there's a bar right there, and he ordered a drink or two, and just said, I just didn't think I was going to make it. I needed a drink as soon as I got here." then it it'll be harder to make that stick.
In terms of the time delay, you mentioned that they would be going around getting receipts, talking to people who had seen them. That may take time, especially in the Bahamas, if they have to go to different islands.
Right. It might take time. And if they were paying cash, it's going to take a lot more time because the people in one location are very well not going to know where they came from or if they were someplace else first. And they might, who knows, could they have hopped from one place to another to another?
Mm.
You don't know. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful places down there and people can pop in and out if they want. But the thing that just confuses me, and maybe I should just look into it a little more, is the 2 mile distance from in that dinghy. That's a long way in that little tiny dinghy. And that dinghy, to the best of my knowledge, didn't even have a motor on it, did it?
Yeah, it had a
He was
little
just down
motor.
to the
It had like a very, very
oh
small, very,
oh
very
one of those little ones.
one of those really baby ones. Yeah. I really appreciate Maureen for taking the time to talk with me about this case. It's obviously so sad. My heart goes out to the family of Lynette Hooker, and you just hope maybe there could be some kind of miracle that she washed up somewhere on an island and is alive. But obviously, as the days go by, that's not looking like a probability. So I'll keep you guys posted with what happens next with the case. Really appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.